Now, I know how easy it is to buy a dip from the supermarket or to make a simple onion dip with onion soup powder. I know there's some of you out there, and I know a lot of my friends do it, but why don't you try to make an onion dip from scratch using caramelized onions? It tastes so much better, and I'm going to give it a lovely tang by using some sour cream. You need 3 large brown onions for this, and just finely slicing them, pop them in a bowl, and then we're going to start cooking them in a large saute pan. So 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil into the base of a saute pan, just give that a twirl, and then in with our onions. Now it seems like a lot of onions for a dip that will serve about 4 people, but don't forget these are going to cook for about 45 minutes, so they're going to collapse quite a lot and will leave us with just a little bit of onion. So give that a toss, coat that all in that olive oil. We also need to season it with some salt to draw out some of that moisture. And then once it starts to sizzle, once we start to get a little bit of colour on it, I'll turn the heat down, cook it for about 40 to 45 minutes, constantly stirring it until they're really soft and almost jammy. Now the onions have cooked and I've allowed them to cool down. Look how jammy and delicious they are. I love when they're at this stage. You need these onions to be cool because you don't want to be adding hot onions to cream because it won't hold its shape. Also, we don't want any of that excess oil, so I've just strained them in a sieve and we're ready to go on to the next stage. So now for the cream component, I'll place the softened cream cheese into the bowl. And then before I add my sour cream, I like to whip this just until it's really creamy and smooth so we don't get any lumps. Perfect. And when you're doing this, make sure you bring the cream cheese out for about 1 hour before you start to blend it. Again, it'll ensure that it goes really creamy and doesn't become lumpy. Now for our classic sour cream that's going to give a nice tangy flavour. So 200 mils, a little less than a cup. And then we're going to whip this one more time. All right, this is looking fantastic. I want to show you the consistency of this. See how it's nice and thick, it's holding onto the spoon. That's what we want. We want it to be able to grab on to all those sticky onions. Now I'll be adding the onions in 2 stages. First, I want to puree some of these onions into the cream mixture. So I'll add 1/3 of the onions now, and I want to puree this so it's quite fine. And then we'll add the last 2/3 in at the end so we've got a little bit of texture. And now to give this onion dip that umami flavour, that savoury flavour, Worcestershire sauce. So just 1 to 2 teaspoons. I want some heat, so some cayenne pepper. Good pinch of that in there. Lid goes back on and we'll puree this together. Oh wow, that definitely looks like a good onion dip. I'm gonna have a taste now just to see how the seasoning is. It might need a little bit more salt. That is so rich and decadent from that sour cream. I love it. You know what? It doesn't need any salt. I'll add the last bit of onion and then I just want to mix these in just on a low speed so we don't chop up those onions too much. Done. This looks so great. Look at that colour. You can see by just taking those onions a little bit further, caramelising them slightly, get that golden colour in this dip. So happy with this. So let's serve this up and we'll place about half of this into a bowl. The rest can go into an airtight container, into the fridge, if it lasts for a couple of days. And then I like to garnish this with, again, something else from the onion family, chives. It's got a subtle onion flavour, sweet flavour, fantastic as a garnish. So I'll just finely chop about 1/4 of a bunch and a nice generous handful over the top. And I just love the colour of cayenne pepper and I don't mind it having a little bit more heat. So a sprinkling of that over the top. And you can't have dip without chips, right? So I've got some classic chips And I'm gonna add a generous amount of this to my chippy. Tell you what, after you make this caramelised onion dip, you will never go back to a store-bought dip again because that is sensational.